and we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your Starfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. I'm Alexander Agunas, No Direction's Everyman Gamer, and I'm joined, as always, by the most intrepid Starfinder this side of the Scoured Stars,
Hi,
James.
I'm James. I used to write Code Switch.
And it's very important that I mention that we are on the opposite side of the Scoured Stars today because we have a special treat for you. We are reviewing Paizo's, let's call it a new adventure path, but in quotation marks, the Scoured Stars adventure path.
I would still call it new content because I think this is you have two groups of players, right? You have your society players and your like core line and adventure path players,
Yeah,
and they there's not a whole ton of overlap.
definitely. For those of you who don't know, um, Starfinder has an organized play program called Starfinder Society. In it, you play as members of the titular Starfinder Society, going on adventures and being a paramilitary organization in a world with governments where that's a problem. The first season of Starfinder was, like most seasons are, a combination of different adventures with an overarching meta plot, and that meta plot was called the Scoured Stars. This adventure takes the major meta plots out of the Starfinder season 1 and season 1.5 adventures and kind of represents them as a anthology or adventure path that your characters can do.
Yeah, it goes from first to 14th level. I think you end up 15th because they still did that thing where at the end of it you level up, which I just blows my mind. Why tease people with a 15th level they're never going to use?
It's actually really funny because like they really didn't have to do that in this book. One of the things that makes the Scoured Stars adventure path notable, let's say, is that as far as I know, it is the first Paizo official adventure path to require milestone leveling. James, can you explain what milestone leveling is?
Milestone leveling is the greatest. It's where you just level up when your GM tells you.
Yes. I personally only do milestone leveling because I can't be bothered to track experience points for my players. So I'll just be like, yeah, this feels like you've done enough. Here's a level. Enjoy.
Yeah,
And that's essentially what this does.
yeah, because you would end up having to just they would have to write many more encounters to make the experience match up, and that's just not going to be. That's a lot of design work, and it kind of defeats the purpose of this AP by basically making it 3 times as long.
Yeah, and also like I like to think of it as like watching a really good anime. Like, do you really need to show every little XP scrap that you got? Does that make the show better? I think there are some shows and some adventure paths where like having those little bits of incremental gain and those like side encounters really do add to the story. I'm thinking of like your Avatar, The Last Airbenders, where like the journey is a major part of the story because that's how you grow that bond to the world. But like, not every adventure needs that.
No, and you got plenty of in betweens to experience that in this because these are society adventures, but there is enough time between them to like feel things out and to add things in. There's suggestions for adventures that might be run that help kind of make things make sense that happen later on. No big spoilers. We're
Definitely.
gonna try to stay away from spoilers. We know some of these adventures are going on 6 years old, um,
Yeah.
but
But that being said, like this is a really good adventure path and you should read it and or play it. Like we don't want to spoil it for you.
yeah, I've had a lot of fun going back over it and seeing what I remember from the running these and playing these games. Uh, there's a lot of good memories here.
Yeah, and this is a good point to remind everybody who is listening later that No Direction Beyond is filmed in front of a live Twitch audience. We are the final remaining No Direction show to do this, and we're available. We usually post in our Discord when we're going to go live. So, like this show, we talked about it like the week before or whatever that we recorded. But the reason I want to bring that up is because we have a couple questions in the Twitch chat today, and we'll probably be calling on Twitch and answering their questions about this review as we go on to help people figure out if this is the sort of book that they want. Lava Being in chat asks, I haven't done the math, but how does the page count compare to the old 3-6 issue adventure paths for Starfinder and also compared to Pathfinder? So I don't have an adventure path out in front of me. to determine exactly how the page count compares. But one thing I will say is that this book has 263 pages in it, and that includes like the cover, the inside cover, all of the ads. So I think that if I go into, I'm going to open Fly Free or Die as an
Yeah, I mean,
example
an
because I
adventure
happen,
path has like what 40 pages of adventure content, with the rest being
yeah.
everything else.
Merchants of the Void, which is the second book of Fly Free or Die, has 68 pages. So like I mean, if you take that into consideration, let's say 68 pages goes in about, maybe it's about as big as maybe a full compilation of like a 3 volume adventure path, give or take a few pages. I think this book is probably shorter because I don't think that the back matter it has is equivalent to 3 adventure paths worth of back matter. It feels more like it's closer to one. But the back matter that is in this book, what did not exist in the actual Starfinder Society adventures. So like these are custom articles. Like James and I in our pre-show were talking about one of the articles, right?
Yeah, there's a retcon to a species, which it's gonna, they say, change stuff going forward. Doesn't really matter for the adventure, and if you've played the Starfighter Society ones, you'll probably end up with a scenario at some point where they go, "Hey, we messed up and we decided to change this," and you're just gonna go, "Oh, okay, cool."
Definitely. Um I overall I also really like that it's got that whole article on the Cree home freehold.
Oh yeah, giving context, I had so many lost players whenever I'd bring them up, thinking I was like having a stroke, trying to say something else.
Yeah, I feel like the Freehold struggled because like it was this important place in the first season of Starfinder, but like the first adventure rule books was setting up like the Pact Worlds. So like I don't even think that they appeared in an article until the Near Space book almost 2 or 3 years later.
I'm not even sure the free home appeared in season 1 proper. I think it was season 1.5.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. And actually, the Creon Freehold would they wouldn't be in near space. Maybe they would because they're not in the vast. Are they in the vast? Is the Skyward Stars in the vast? I don't remember.
Scoured Stars, I believe, is in the vast.
Okay, so then yeah, they're probably not even in the near space book because the near space book only talks about like near space. Um, so overall, like this is good if you want to know more about the Scoured Stars that's in here. Like we talked about in the last episode, there is a mention that the Scoured Stars exist and like its location on the God, it's Desna's Path is the name of the galaxy, right?
Yeah,
The its location in the galaxy is actually shown on that map. So if you wanted to know more about that, I think this article is probably necessary.
yeah, it is in the vast, the free home.
Gotcha. Okay. So, let's talk about how this adventure is structured because I feel like this is a little bit different than most adventure paths, right?
I mean, entirely. I mean, you have 12 small adventures instead of
Yeah.
one overarching one, but it doesn't feel disconnected. Um,
No. You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember back when we were running Pathfinder first edition conventions and like we used to run that one adventure in the it was the one that takes
oh,
place in Isgur. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, the drowned, drowned
Yeah. Yeah, the really good
Seers of
one.
the Drowned
Remember?
City.
Yeah, or
I don't know.
I don't
That
no,
doesn't
it
bother
was
me.
the spooky one.
Yeah, isn't that
I
the
don't
spooky
know.
one?
I don't know. We played it up at MagaCon. I don't remember what it was called. But it reminds me of like one of those where it's like an anthology of a couple different adventures that are all related to an overarching plot. Except like in the one that I'm thinking of, I don't remember if that's its name or not, but that particular adventure, like there were 3 adventures you could do in any order. And you know
G-
what I'm talking about?
Gallows of Madness.
Gallows of Madness. That was it. Okay, yeah, Gallows of Madness. In Gallows of Madness, you could do those 3 adventures in any order, but they were all thematically related. This is like the same idea, except they are in a clear sequential progression, which is very cool. It definitely follows the beats of the adventure pretty well. The original one, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. I There's a couple that they recommend also running. I think the one with Strawberry Machine Cake is one.
Yeah.
There's one about the what's that big Death Star that has the mystery doors? you know,
Oh, Salvation's End.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
That one is Salvation's End is one of those things where like if they don't make that into like its own standalone module or something at some point, I'd be shocked. Like I feel like that's one of the biggest mysteries in the setting.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Um, but yeah, so like this book has like a lot of intro to what the Scoured Stars are. There's like a thanks. From what I can tell, this looks like this book was basically completely constructed by Thirsty is the vibe I'm getting when I read like the dedications and whatnot. Obviously, every person that wrote any of the adventures that make up this book is credited as an author. That's what you do. And there were Kay Tessa Newton and Solomon St. John were both the editing leads for this one. You also have another group of additional editors, but like Thirsty is the lead developer on it. I think it's pretty rare nowadays that you have your creative manager also acting as your lead developer. And on top of that, like nobody knows Scout Stars better than Thirsty. At the time when these adventures were originally written, Thirsty was the lead of the Starfinder half of the organized play at Paizo. So like he put together pretty much the first two, maybe three seasons of Starfinder Society. And like this book has so much of Thirsty's fingerprints beyond the original, and also just like his style of like how to present things to people are all over this place. If you've ever met Thirsty, this reads like a book Thirsty put together, and that is not a diss.
Yeah. It's a I think it's a love letter to all the weirdness in the setting for like
Yes.
against big evils, quote unquote.
Yes. So one of the things that it does, James mentioned this, there are sidebars throughout the adventures that were not in the original publications. And what these sidebars do is they usually give you context to the adventures or like tips or information that you'll need, or they note when things changed. This book goes very, very, very much out of its way to avoid gaslighting Starfighter Society
Yeah,
players.
like at the very beginning, as I have up on screen, it tells you maybe don't make an Ezalgun because
Yeah.
in as of the society they did not exist.
Yes.
Some settlements maybe don't be. Also, people shouldn't know Jinsel. That should be like a super language. Also, the context that like at the very beginning of the Starfinder Society, you've just lost like 80% of your Starfinders. Like the Starfinder Society starts off being a failed expeditionary force where they
Yes.
go to find something really cool and then Jadnur is an idiot and then everybody disappears and
Did you
you're picking
that
up those
adventure's
pieces.
still here? Like I read that in here and I was like,
Of
"Oh,
course it is. It's
oh,
standard. Jednar is all over the second half of this book, and you will grow to dislike him. He's like a Drendel Drang without any of the like cool
redeeming
factor.
qualities." Yeah,
Yeah,
any of the redeeming qualities.
yeah.
he he wakes you up in the middle of the night like a cat and then just goes and meditates in a sad
He's
temple instead.
he's the John Cena of this setting. He just shows up, he just beats up everything, then leaves, and then you're just left there to pick up the pieces. Nothing hurts him.
Right?
It doesn't matter. No spoilers, but this is a spoiler. You won't like him, and if you
We're being
do, your
asked
problems.
we're being asked in chat whether Drendel Drang has redeeming qualities.
Yeah, he can get Grandmaster Torch to do things.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, one redeeming quality. He can make torch tooth. That's probably why he hasn't been in Starfinder Second Edition in any of the scenarios that I played. He's like, oh, I guess Grandmaster Torch retired. I'm not needed. He just walks off.
Yeah, yeah. He was the Torch Wrangler, you know.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is interesting, compare so that just full disclosure, James has played and run much more of this than I have, the original content. I have done much less, because James was like the super gung-ho society player forever. And I think I was in God, this was in 2017. I was in graduate school.
Sir, I also GM these. I believe I got up to 3 stars before I stopped 4 years ago.
It's true. But one of the things I want to note is like one of my favorite sidebars is in the very first adventure where it's like, "Where's the junk race?" And I'm like, "No, we don't ask that question as if we miss the junk race."
there are
I re-
there are chase rules later that are optional, but you probably
yeah.
maybe should look at. They're not that hard.
Yeah, no, the basically the sidebar is like we took out the junk race and we put in this other thing that foreshadows another thing in the future a little bit better. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Do that much better. That junk race, it took so. I remember sitting down to run it at a table, and the junk race took like an hour by itself, and it wasn't even like playing the junk race, it was like setting up and like rolling all of the checks to get ready for the junk race took an hour. That junk race was not needed. Do not miss it. If you read that commentary, You are not missing anything by excluding it. I
Y-
promise you.
Your group might like it. Also, there's a bunch of starship combat in here, so you know.
Why would you contradict me like that? I'm
Because
trying to save these people.
because sometimes you just got to do things.
That's like a seraph coming on down and saying, "No, you don't need to do this. You'll be better if you don't." And then James just pops up on the shoulder with his little demon horns. He's like, "No, do it. It'd be funny."
I don't remember having any trouble running that part. I think I probably pre-rolled everything.
Oh my, you probably did. That sounds like you. James is the GM who like he'll see when something is like gonna be a pain in the butt, and he'll say, "Okay, I need you all to roll these dice now. I need you to write down your results in this order. I need you to hand them to me, and then I need you to not ask questions, and I'll tell you what they were for later."
Yeah, look, I would give people chances to alter those dice based on stuff. That wouldn't be
Mhm.
their final, but yes, that's exactly how I do it.
Yeah, I know. I know. You know, actually, now that I say that, I might have been at one of your tables where
That
you've
that
done that.
sounds yeah, that sounds like something I've had you do because I've had you look at me like, but wait, don't I get to do other stuff? And I had to like go chill. You will be able to. Uh,
That also sounds like me.
the beginning part of the adventure also kind of goes over how that milestone works and the credit rewards.
Mhm.
I haven't actually done the math to see if it is like level specific to the wealth as you would get like regular wealth by level. I'm assuming smarter people than I worked on this, so I'm just going to call that probably. Including the fact that there's no reputation system in this adventure
Yeah.
path, which is a big deal at lower levels when you can get raised deads and resurrections from it. Well, not resurrections, but raised deads.
Yeah. So this is probably going to be a little bit more dangerous if you die, but just don't die. You'll be fine.
I mean, it is proportionally harder to die in Starfinder than I think other Paizo products.
Though, yes, yeah. Let me tell you, it is. It is much easier to die in both Pathfinder games than Starfinder
Yeah.
at every level of play.
So maybe just throw that in as like an extra. Maybe you find a gem of it, just because that, and it will probably matter a little bit later on because this still uses the old skill DCs, which doesn't seem like a problem, except they were very high before, and now they're only kind of high for
Yeah.
adventures later on. And there was a boon in society to get a intern, basically, that could roll skill checks for you. Um, so missing out on that might be harmful if you have a group of people that say likes to play soldier. All of them like to play soldiers. They just want to hell divers.
Mhm.
I, I
In other words, yeah.
I get the
Good
fantasy.
good reference.
Yeah, I get the fantasy. But now you don't have that option because you're not in society with that system. So just keep those things in mind.
Yeah, like I would say that society is designed assuming that you have just a random party and you have no control over what your comp is.
The worst of Starfinder HR.
Yes, but this is an adventure path, and so like I'm sure that Thirsty probably sat here when it was like, if you come here with the Obadiah squad and you die, good, you deserve it.
But that's why you just got to do better and just spit in the face of that because don't nobody tell you how to play a game.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody tells you. Go and be four envoys.
Hmm.
Do it.
Especially
Nobody can
especially with
stop
the
you.
new options. Also, the new options
Right?
for narrative spaceship combat will save you a lot, especially on the earlier spaceship combats because they were
Yeah.
less than dynamic.
Yeah. Lava Bean in chat asks, is the content meant for the four-person party? It looks like it is. This is
Yes,
this.
there is a section that says it's for 4 people, can go up to 5 people, and anything more you probably want to add extra difficulty.
Yes. So there is no like in Starfinder Society, there was like a balance adjustments for like bigger tables. That's not in here as rules. Like it assumes this is an adventure path. You're coming here with four, maybe five people.
Yeah. And it goes into what the factions are, a little bit of background about the Starfinder Society, First Seeker Jad Nura, and what you're doing before it jumps into the first scenario, which is the commencement, which I'm sure everybody here has played and run
I hope
maybe
so.
dozens of times.
I mean, I think anybody who has played Starfinder Society probably has at the bare minimum. If you haven't, that's fine.
I mean,
Like,
I mean, it's the Evergreen, and I believe you got full credit if you completed even like one or two of the missions. I don't even think you had to complete all of them to get full credit.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that got a lot of play at cons.
definitely. So the commencement is here, and it's the commencement. It looks exactly like that adventure.
Yep, it's like first steps or any other Evergreen.
Yeah. And just for the reference, I know it sounded right like there, like we're gonna go over each of the adventures in turn. We're not.
Nope.
Like, we don't want to give you spoilers because there's some really good stuff in here.
Yeah, I mean the whole arc for the Scoured Stars and that whole line is just it is so good. I kind of I had wished that was one of the first adventure paths that they put together.
Yeah. I mean, James, you did such a good job running Dead Sons,
Hmm.
but this is more interesting than Dead Sons. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dead Sons is cool. There's some narrative weight that I think is lost because everything is so new and you're adding in new things. It's like, why should I care about these things? Oh, suddenly things are happening to these, and you're just doing them because it's the thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think this gives a better idea. It needs a little bit more buy-in for from your players because they can't just be crazy people. Because you
Yes.
are part of the Starfinder Society. You can't just be, hopefully,
Yeah, I mean, like the Starfinder Society lets a lot of crazy people in, as we see in future seasons of Starfinder
yeah,
Society.
but you need to be like employably crazy.
Yes, you do need to be employably crazy. That is the most important criterion. In chat, we have one person asking, "How is commencement as an adventure for players who are new to Starfinder First Edition, or as a first adventure for an AP?"
Adequate.
Fine. Yeah, it's fine. like, like it's good. Like so here's the thing. If you when you play this, just because James and I have done a lot of society, like if you are an adventure path player and have never played organized play before, because this uses milestone leveling and the scenarios are essentially printed as they were with the smallest of modifications possible, like you're gonna feel like you level up really fast in this adventure. About every 4 hours you're leveling up in this.
Yeah,
Like
the good stuff. Get the good stuff.
the, the good stuff, because it assumes like every adventure is, and like here's another thing, like Starfinder Society and most organized play adventure scenarios are designed around being available at a range. So like the commencement was available at like from first to second level as one tier, right? And then I think you could play it once at 3 to 4. Does that sound right, James? Or was it only
Yeah.
1 to 2?
Uh,
Yeah.
uh yeah. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, yeah.
I think it was evergreen, which means you could play it as many times as you wanted at 1 to 2, and it was one character could do it 3 to 4. But like none of those modifications are in here. Like this isn't Starfinder Society in the sense that like every adventure is scalable. You're doing them at a progression, and because of the rate that James mentioned, like there are 12 adventures in here. You're ending at 15. Not
Yeah.
only are some of these adventures like giving you a level every time you finish one of them. So about 4 hours of play. Some of them give multiple levels in the course of a single adventure.
Yeah. I will say the commencement I think is a better society scenario because it introduces the factions. You
Yes.
you do get some faction through lines, more through their faction leaders. Starfinder Society does a very good job about making you kind of care about your faction leaders. But there are some mechanical benefits that are written in, and I think some of them are new or adjusted. Um, in later scenarios where you get rewards based on being parts of factions. They're not the same as the boons that you would have gotten from society and been able to use more freely, but you do see progression from that, and it does introduce it. So I wouldn't say it's definitely not bad by any means.
Mhm.
As a standalone adventure for new players to Starfinder, it's fine. As a adventure
Mhm.
for Starfinder Society, it was probably better when their faction heads were the same. For this AP,
Yes.
probably just fine.
Yes. Now, one thing that I want to mention that's really interesting is adventure number 6 and adventure number 12. Those two adventures are notable because in organized play, they are not standalone adventures for just 4 players, are they, James?
No, they're multi-table specials adapted to
Yeah.
single table play.
Yes. And so what ends up happening in this is there are still mechanics of based on like the number of successes that your players get and like what happens. But for the most part, these I'd say out of the entire thing from what I've read, those two adventures have the most changes. And I wouldn't even say they're major changes.
No, I wouldn't say they're major at all. They are just adjustments, and a lot of them are kind of on you as a GM. If you've never been to a multi-table special is exactly what it sounds like. You and a room full of people get together to play a single adventure, and you work towards a common goal. So like it's generally broken into 3 parts. The first part is like a scouting, feeling out phase, and this is pretty true of every multi-table adventure I've ever played.
Mhm.
First one is scouting, doing a couple things. Second one is getting some impact on some mid-tier things to, feel it out. And there's usually less options here in that middle part. And then final boss thing. And in general, you don't get to run through every part of that unless you are
Mhm.
um, that table.
But in the Scoured Stars adventure path, you basically have to do every single mission. And most of those missions have multiple parts, which is one of the reasons why Adventure 6 and Adventure 12 not only are the longest, but if you've ever played one of these at a convention, there's always like an interlude about halfway through where like everybody just takes a break. Like you can go use the bathroom, you can get up, stretch, whatever you need to do. There is an interlude, and at that interlude in each of these adventures, you level up. That's where those extra levels come from.
Yeah. So you don't actually have to do every part of the first two phases. You can
No, do
choose
it.
not
Don't be a coward.
you could choose not to if they're not your speed, if your table doesn't want to, and you can choose to just give them those resources, or if they don't want to, you can choose to punish them. There's generally not make or break things there besides your character potentially dying in a set. It'd be weird to die in a first kind of tier encounter. More likely in the second tier. I've had plenty of deaths in the second tier of the encounter.
No, do it. Don't be a coward.
Some
Do
of the
every mission.
some of them aren't great. All right, not all of them are like winner chicken dinner. Some of them are just kind of like, hey, we need to keep a group of people that came here and paid money interested for 6 hours, while giving a GM their time to do stuff and not panic. So like some things are just meant for role playing, so your GM can eat really quick in between your table. So like not everything is amazing, but they were fun scenarios. They really are, especially when they get to the crescendos. And if you buy in to your faction leaders, they take outsized parts in both of these.
Yeah.
I remember on the second one, I remember us booing that a character didn't die.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I read through that, so I just remember being in that ballroom just going boo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. I know which character you wanted too.
I know. I thought it would have been cool. I understand why they did what they did, and there's options. What my favorite part of that was realizing that because that was a choice in the second one of what could happen potentially there, and there was a
Mhm.
choice. Um, the chaotic choice didn't get picked, but that's fine. That sometimes you just got to read the room and go along.
Mhm. So let's take a moment now to talk about the enemies of this adventure path. I think they're very cool. What do you think?
I'm glad that they expanded a bit on why there's so many demons in this lawful evil dude's armies.
Right. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, the main villains of this adventure path are a group of alien tyrants called the Jin Souls. Yeah.
Who worship a god Cadrical, who jealously squirrels away all those species of his solar system, and people manage to get out sort of, and then they live fractured lives. But you kind of find that place, and this is not spoilers. This is where you lose 80% of your starfinders at the beginning. This is the context. Jadura goes, "Hey, I found something cool here," and he just takes everybody. Everybody goes, "Yeah, adventure," and then they don't come back.
Yeah. That is right. And so like they're very interesting as antagonists. I put in our title card that they are the robo crabs because that they essentially kind of look like robotic crabs. They wear like heavy plate armor over their soft but not soft chitinous bodies underneath,
They're
and
sometimes furry.
they're sometimes furry. Good on them. And yeah, they're just like brutal. Rereading this adventure path made me remember how just it's funny because until you get to some of the later Starfinder societies, their scenarios, they're honestly meaner than the Vescarium.
Oh, definitely. And they have those leg blades that do like wounding criticals. So like
Yeah,
if your party did not have an ability to stop bleeding, one of your party members could very well just bleed out at a table.
yeah. That reminds me of that time I made a dinosaur bleed out.
Yeah.
Except this would be my friend, and that wouldn't be good. My friend's dying is not as good as a dinosaur bleeding out and dying,
Jurassic Park will remember that.
right? But oh my gosh, it's a dinosaur and he's got leg blades. Oh no.
But
um
I had forgotten some of the art, and I'm so glad that looking back on this, I get to like remember all this beautiful art that went in for these
is
Jinsols.
was that picture of Jed Nora for Adventure 7 in the book, or was that commissioned for this?
I I believe it was in there. Let me double check. Adventure 7. I believe so, because we have a couple pictures of him looking like a smug man.
Mhm.
Jednur is Kasatha. He's the original First Seeker. So he's a faction leader, sort of, when you begin this adventure path. Uh, but kind of like in what's that word? In spirit, because you got a new
Yeah.
first seeker, Loazi Elsbo, who is generally a good, competent person.
Is he? Oh no. Eliasba. I thought you
Yeah,
meant Jed Nora. I was like, wait.
no, no, Jad Nura would endanger you for a mystical stapler.
I just so you know, like James and I have sat down and discussed this, and if James ever needs to convey to me that like he's not safe or something is wrong, then the plan is that he's going to start telling me about ways Janora is a wonderful and good person. Like if I hear him start singing praises of Janora, I know that he's in danger and can't tell me
Right, that's
otherwise.
how you could tell me from the doppelganger.
Yeah. That's how you know. The real James would never praise Jed Nora and would never feel neutral about him either.
No,
James only has hatred for this
no,
Katana man.
no. He takes a central point. He is somebody that is foreshadowed. It's not a big spoiler that you meet him eventually at some point.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's just known that you could be excited about him. He does. If you are somebody who's just like adventure at all cost, Jadnura is your dude. I just
Mhm.
maybe I don't like your long term outlook. Might not be that long
uh,
term.
that's very true.
And then after the multi tables, they go into more context for things and like the Kree Home, Free Home, the Jin Souls, and all their history and everything, and how it leads into the following seasons. So
Mhm.
it gives you a jumping off point, and it also suggests like a Devastation arc as a follow up, because you will be conveniently that level.
Mhm.
And then also all the handouts from all the scenarios are in the back of the book, which is great. I'm glad they're in one big place instead of scattered throughout the book. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Makes it much easier. So I guess we should talk about let's talk about the overall pros of this, the things that we like the best. How do you want to start or would you like me to go
Oh
first?
yeah, I do like that the adventure time is fast. A lot of adventure pass, I think, it's not a struggle. It's just a difference in how you get value out of. But a lot of adventure paths require you to do between 6 and 8 hours of stuff to get a payout. Um,
Yeah.
and this just speeds that up greatly. So if you have new players or players that are kind of um, results motivated, where they're not so much in for the in between, but for what they get out of things. Um,
Yeah.
I think this as a compendium adventure path is a great lead in. There is, like I said, there is some stuff that's kind of off limits. You could potentially have like an Izalgun, but nobody knows it's an Izalgun. Like a Taranga
Mhm.
Leela situation. Um, but everything I think has gotten cooler in your options since then. And there's nothing really against you going back and changing uh, these enemies or these encounters. I mean, some of them have already been changed, like increasing the amount of demons, changing a couple hazards. I think some of the DCs on certain parts were changed as well. I had to try to remember all these things because I did not have the mental wherewithal to reread every scenario and then reread them again.
Do you know what they didn't change that I'm very happy they didn't change?
What?
The limb incinerator.
Ah, I
I
saw that. I saw that.
the joys of like going to play different tables with different friends and then rejoining for a new scenario just to find that your friends had several limbs burned off in the adventure that your character didn't have. That was great. It's like, oh, your limbs are just gone. I think that the presentation of this adventure is very good. I think that it's an excellent it really utilizes the strength of milestone leveling, and it really captures the spirit of Starfinder Society translated into an adventure path. I think that if you are somebody who has played Starfinder Society already, this will feel very familiar. It's very nostalgic. It's fun like that. Like, this isn't like we're going to change everything. It's a very faithful adaptation to arguably the best arc that Starfinder Society has ever done.
Also, it
Right?
is I think important to note that as a Starfinder Society play like character, you can actually not play the scenario as it is written, based on levels for different adventures. So this allows you to actually play them in level order with a single character.
Yeah, because like James and I mentioned, adventures had level tiers, and you could very easily level yourself out of a scenario by accident, meaning you couldn't actually do them all on one character. This has rearranged them so one character can progress through the whole story, and I think that's a strength of this as well.
Yeah. The only criticism, this will be incredibly specific, and I have to really dance around the spoilers here. On the second multi-table special adapted scenario 12. Um, Enemies need breaching charges. Uh,
Oh, they didn't change the spaceship issue that you had?
yes, there was no changes.
I
And,
remember that.
and
You came back from that scenario being really pissed.
I wasn't pissed. I was exasperated as to why people didn't want to play the scenario.
Why
uh,
would you just lock them out?
yeah, I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but people when they breach things should be able to get through things. If you send a breaching party, they should have breaching things. So, there's breaching shotguns. There's stuff already in the book that you can just quickly throw onto them. Just remember, if you're doing that 6 scenario, give things the ability to get through things.
Yeah.
Also, there's skills for that. It's just
This
something.
is going to sound very pedantic. There are a couple places where like it talks about this will make more sense if you've played this other scenario. I think the big one that pops up a bunch of times is 1-38, The Many Minds of Historia.
Yeah,
And like I feel like if you had to reference that more than once, it probably should have been in the book. Like I get that page space is limited, but like it feels like that would have been a very good one. Even if I know for a fact that that adventure is like jumping back and it takes place in the Lore Spire complex, not in the Scoured Stars. So like I get it, but like I don't know. I feel like character development happening off screen is not great. That is my one annoyance, but everything else is great.
yeah. I mean, I get it. You are part of the Starfighter group in charge of the Scoured Stars. This person just shows up whenever they want to, and you're just like, hey, new haircut, cool, cool. I like that haircut.
Yeah. One thing that you could do that might be really fun is like as you finish other adventures, like go find a summary of some major things that happened in a couple of other adventures and report it as like a little like note that popped up in like the Starfinder newsletter weekly or whatever, and just say, "Oh, by the way, Historia 6 went crazy and almost killed this person," or whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, you could do all sorts of things. You could find little snippets of scenarios and just place them in there for an encounter or two.
Mhm.
I know there's some scenarios in Starfinder Society where stuff happens within like yelling distance from the Lore Spire complex, and you could just like call the cops, right? So like
Yeah,
you are suddenly the cops that are there. There's all
definitely.
sorts of ways just to throw those extra bits in there.
Definitely, definitely. So Lava Bean in chat asked, do many APs have this amount of downtime between the segments of the action? I think that because everything is happening in the Scoured Stars, there's less downtime here. Like in Starfinder Society, it's assumed that you have a month of downtime between every adventure. But like I don't know, maybe. I think we had a fair bit of downtime in Dead Suns, didn't we? Like traveling from place to place.
Yeah, yeah, but because it was generally that travel was between books, you didn't get a lot of it all told. Um,
Yeah.
Whereas this is between every scenario. So like there's only so much you can do with downtime. Downtime is in a weird place in Starfinder where crafting doesn't take long, and your downtime action activities either take like a week, a day or a week, and then you'll get like multiple, and then you can't get the benefits from that week of downtime until you're doing something within the next week.
Yeah.
So
Uh
more than a week
Lava
of downtime
Bean
doesn't do anything really.
agreed. Lava Bean also asked, do any of the references to outside adventure content recommend the players play that content with different characters? Not really.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
no, it just gives it as an option. So you could or you could
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Like the way that I see it is that it treats society scenarios almost like as side jobs from more modern Starfinder APs.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So like I mean like if you wanted to Lava Bean, I'm sure you could. That's definitely one way to do it. But like if you have a new table of players and making a new character at level 11 or whatever would be too much, then just find a reason for them to come back. Maybe they got to resupply their Starfinder Pegasus or whatever.
yeah. They also have the starship combat. There's a lot of it here. Not a lot. There's a lot in the beginning, and then kind of a lot towards the end.
Yeah.
You can use the narrative system from Enhance just to hand wave it.
Or you could just ignore it.
You could ignore it. You could swap in mech. You could swap in mechs. I know it's not part of the original, but you're not. You don't need to follow any of their rules.
Just make a Gundam, yeah. Like they deploy the mechs into outer space. It's fine.
I mean, aliens versus people in mechs. I mean, that's kind of like
The
classic
thing.
sci-fi, right?
Not even just classic. It's like modern sci-fi too. It's like timeless sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably a better way to describe it, like timeless. So like, feel free to just throw some stuff out the window.
Yeah, change it. It's fine.
Look,
But
I'm a big simp for the Starfinder game. I'm not a simp for the Starfinder Starship rules. That I've said that many times.
oh yeah, man, I ran one Starfinder game for teen or one Starship Combat for Teenage Wasteland because we'd gotten to level 3 and they were complaining about wanting to try it, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And they're all like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "All right, we'll do it." And I ran the Starship Combat for everybody, and then by the time we were done, only one person wanted to do another, and I was like, "Great, you can be in charge of building the starship." And I gave him the Starship chapter. Then he's like, "I don't want to do this anymore." And then I go,
You know what? I've gotten a BattleTech over the last year, and their Starship rules, and their last update, from what I was reading, was about 20 years ago. So it
yeah.
turns out when you have a game that is not based around Starship Combat, it won't be about Starship Combat.
Mhm.
That's just the long and short of it. If people did not come to your game for Starship Combat, they're not going to want to do it.
It's true.
I've just seen so many examples of this across different systems. Like if you're playing what is that Star Wars tabletop thing, people
Mhm.
love that game. That game is
Yeah,
great because it's about being in space and being a
yeah,
starfighter.
yeah,
So
definitely. I think people just want something to do the thing and to do it quick and easy. Like they want the fantasy without you needing to know how a pulse caster radon power core operates and what it will do when it melts down. Like,
I do applaud all the people that have worked on Starfinder throughout the years of trying to make the Starship Combat system work. I think there's been like 4 revisions or additions to it.
yeah,
Each time just trying to get something out of it before ending up a narrative. And I do appreciate the dedication to trying to make something work. Um,
yeah,
I think that is commendable.
yeah, definitely. Well, this is the second to last adventure path for this edition, James. Mechageddon is all that's left after this. It's the final
Mechageddon.
book. Yeah, because all 5 of the Angels of the Drift comics came out, so all of that content has been released. Then, as far as we know, there's this, and then there's Mechageddon, and then Starfinder First Edition is officially closed book. Do you have any thoughts? Is this a good way to get new people into the game? Is it a worthy closing adventure path? What do you think?
I mean I think it's a great starting adventure path. I think if in a decade or so my daughter sees my miniatures and goes, what do you do with these? I would probably pull out this adventure path.
Yeah, it's a good one.
How about you?
I think that it's strong. I think that it takes honestly one of the best stories that Starfinder has ever told and puts it in a very accessible presentation. Starfinder has a lot of really cool adventures, but I think that a criticism you can make of the adventure paths up to let me think. The last one, but honestly, up to Mechageddon itself, because Drift Hackers was the one before this. A lot of them end up falling into here is a story from a different property that I liked told in Starfinder, right?
Hmm.
Like the Scoured Stars invasion is a wholly like unique thing. Like, sure, there are vibes from like how many things have done the aliens attack or the people have gone missing and we got to rescue them, like those general painted brushstrokes, sure, but like in terms of being a storyline for Starfinder about the Starfinder universe, like you can't really, like, it's really good,
Yeah,
it's strong, it's engaging, you get there, you care, like the commencement does a good job setting you up with your faction, making you care about it. You meet people all throughout the early adventures, and then eventually you're like, all right, we want to help this organization that we've been working on and we've been watching struggle throughout all of these adventures, and here's our time for glory. And then you seize glory and like you still find that there's work to do and there's a bigger enemy that you've got to defeat because now all of Absalom is in danger. It's
yeah,
good. It's a good story.
it's great. It's great. And considering we're like they'll say there will be more Starfinder Society scenarios after this. So
Yeah, I guess we should listen to a developer for Starfinder if he's going to come in and tell us.
wah, wah,
Wah.
we plugged it. I'll get my check later.
Yeah, right. That whole like 1 penny check, so good. Don't spend it all in one place. We'll go buy a macaroon and then owe like 4.99.
I actually have a 1 penny check for my student loans.
That's just insulting.
No, it's great. I overpaid by 1 cent, and they were forced to send 30 cents worth of postage to give me 1 cent back. It's,
Okay, all right. You know what? If you appreciate the fact that you made them waste their money, I respect that. I respect you for wanting that.
Take that.
But yeah, I think this is a good, like, regardless of how Mechageddon turns out, and I'm optimistically excited for Mechageddon. I think regardless of how Mechageddon turn out, if this is the last adventure for Starfinder, it's a banger.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I eagerly wait Mechageddon. That's right up my alley. And the fact that it's a hardcover, I love hardcover adventure pass. I think they're so much better than the books.
Yeah, honestly, like the presentation for this is great. Like, I really hope in the future we get more of this style for Starfinder. It's very good. I
Yeah.
approve. Now, speaking of Mechageddon, Mechageddon comes out in May, so we've got 2 episodes between now and then. One in March and one in April. We're hoping to get some Starfinder developers in to chat with us about how second edition is going and stuff. There's like a few new faces on the team that we've never had on the show before. Like, I know we haven't got I think Mike Kimmel is one of them.
Mm,
So I don't think he's been on on our show. Like, obviously Thirsty and Dustin have been on the show, but Dustin's never been on the show as a developer. He's only ever been on the show as a host.
you're
And
right.
then Jenny has been on the show before, but then I think Shay is the fourth member. I don't know. Paizo people change roles often enough that I do a poor job remembering. But there's at least 2 people we have never had on the show ever, and then there's a third that we've had on the show, but not as a developer. So like, we should probably get some people in. We should get to talking. Maybe see if we can learn any good secrets about the upcoming playtest that's they're going to be in August. But like, we're kind of running on the end of like the new printed content unless we start going into like Starfinder Society, which we're being assured will continue up until the release, at least of the release of the next the playtest. I imagine it'll probably go all the way until second edition, like first edition did.
Yeah.
But one thing is, like, James and I are gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do because there won't be a whole lot of news or reviews, and you can only interview the same people so many times before they stop being able to tell you things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll figure it out. We're big
Oh,
boys.
it's not Shay, it's Jessica Catalan. Wow, we've had her on the show. Why didn't I remember her? Okay. It's been, and what I'm saying now is clearly it's been too long since we've had a guest on here. The last ones we had were Jenny and Thirsty for our right after the soldier field test came out back in September or
November?
October.
October?
One of those two. I don't remember.
Months are a blur.
It's been a while. Yeah, time is an illusion. Everything's a lie. So, like, one thing that would be really helpful is that if you're a listener and there's like something you'd like us to talk about on the show, you should go to nodirectionpodcast.com and click on that fancy Discord button, hop into the Discord and be like, yo, Alex and James, here's something I would like to hear for Starfinder now that we're in sort of like the hibernation period of Starfinder. We are a very chill, friendly Discord. Lots of people. We have discussions all the time. Like, for now, James and I are arguing about whether the nanosite should be con based or int based.
I wouldn't say
And
it's an argument. I think we are just constructive, as
you're
are
right.
other people there.
We are philosophically debating like the great philosophers of Greece.
What,
And then
isn't one of them famous for being poisoned?
yeah, I was actually going to say one of us will have to be Dionys, the guy who screams in about like this is a human and it's actually just a plucked chicken.
Oh, Diogenes.
Yeah,
I I,
that one.
I was thinking of Socrates, the Hemlock.
Okay, yeah. Well, I got one of the great philosophers was even really good at like fist fighting. Like like when people didn't agree with his philosophic ideas, he would basically say fight me, and then, like, you know, the thing where the wizard is out of spell slots, he's like, oh, I'm out of spell slots, he drops his robe and he's just this muscle guy. Like, that's essentially what he would do as a philosopher.
True, true.
The original Chad. So but yeah, if you have anything that you would like us to talk about now that we're approaching the end of the Starfinder content, we're all ears. If you don't, that's fine. James and I will figure out something to do to keep the lights on and talk about stuff. And we'll definitely have more to do in August once that playtest comes out and we get to sink our teeth in the playtest rulebook. Do you think we could convince people on the network to like do a show with us? Is that a bad idea?
No, I don't think so. Look, I think people would be more than willing to.
Yeah. We could like run the playtest adventure and we could like have shenanigans and nobody could stop us. Like who is going to stop us from running shenanigans?
True.
All these other people in No Direction, they don't know how Starfinder is played.
Yeah, yeah. There's
We could
there's like three that are, and then everybody else is just at our mercy.
we could tell them that kobolds are skittermanders, and they would have no choice but to believe us.
I just remember from the Starfinder playtest me not taking into account that you couldn't put two templates on a creature when converting them over, and giving you guys a DC 28 Fortitude save for Gitabli Poison.
Oh my! We just died. You
Yeah,
just murdered us.
just straight up died.
Yeah. Just well, and let's be honest. Like the conversion from Pathfinder First Edition to Starfinder First Edition is very messy, even without that error. But you did just pump us full of poison and murder us instantly. It was an experience. That I don't remember that rat folk's name, but he died for the science of Starfinder.
That did get submitted to a developer, and somebody
We did.
some developer was like, "This idiot put two templates together."
Well, because that's what we had to do. Like when we were part of that original playtest group, like I had to make regular submissions of all the games that we played and like the outcomes and the feedback and whatnot.
Yeah,
And like one of the things I did, I was like, we followed these rules, and the GM put two templates on, and then did the conversion like this, like it says to do. And the DCs were 28, and we just died. Are you
we were
sure
11th
these?
level, and this isn't
Yeah.
survivable.
Are you sure these are compatible?
And they looked at that data and threw it out. They're like, "That guy's an
Yeah.
idiot."
They're like, yeah, this maybe just don't do that. Get good.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, we could have a Pathfinder Starfinder cross compatibility system discussion. That would be interesting. Obviously we couldn't do that until after the actual book comes out, the playtest book. I'm also interested in like what the presentation is going to be, because like we know actually we could do a minor news segment right now. They showed off the cover of the playtest book. It's like this gorgeous like magenta book with the iconic Solarian and the iconic Mystic, the new one, and I think it's Quig on the front cover, being cool. But the thing that's also interesting is that they're doing a playtest adventure, sort of like Doomsday Dawn, and I am really hopeful that this adventure is better than Doomsday Dawn. Really hoping, James.
me too. I mean, I had feelings about that one.
Yeah, I think that like if you are going to publish an adventure and say that this is an adventure, even if the purpose of the adventure is to gain playtest data, the game should be designed to be fun and should not be designed to be a slog and make me hate it, even though you want the feedback to know whether or not something felt bad to play. That's not good. Don't make me hate your game before you publish it.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't it wasn't done intentionally. You know, just the different expectations from a developer versus
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm having a confirmation from Mirrorwolf where they said that I'm assuming Mirrorwolf that you're talking about on one of the Paizo Friday shows, where they mentioned that it's not going to be another Doomsday Dawn, and that Matt's already settled, focused more on situations. That makes sense because like they're basically just picking up Pathfinder Second Edition's math. So like, cool. I'm good with that. Makes sense. I do not want another Doomsday Dawn. I don't want to see like when you do Pathfinder 3, I don't want another Doomsday Dawn. Do not. No more.
don't
Goodbye.
don't Doomsday Dawn me, bro.
Yeah. I think that there have been a couple of spoilers over what the topic of that adventure is, and it is very interesting. It is a possibly a setting changing event, which is cool. Because the Doomsday Dawn thing, I don't think is ever referenced ever again after that adventure, which
Good.
is sad. Yeah. On one hand, good. On the other hand, what was the point? So at least this one seems like it's going to carry through and like matter, which I'm excited about. And someone in chat said, "Why don't you run Starfinder playtest characters through Doomsday Dawn?" No, I know. I full disclosure, Doomsday Dawn. We ran that as a network, and that group fell apart after Group Two, and I think that there was a reason why a lot of the feedback coming from No Direction was more negative about second edition after that group fell apart, in my opinion. So I would rather never see an adventure that pushes its public playtesters like that again. Get private playtesters, do that stuff privately.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I chose not to participate in it because
Yeah.
I think I read through the first book of, and just with this is not for me. And I did some other things with some other people, and was glad I didn't
Well,
spend the
I
time.
think you played the first adventure with us, right?
Did
The
I?
second one. Yeah, it was the Sandy one, and then the
Oh,
whole
you're
group fell
right.
apart.
You're
Yeah,
right.
because you wanted to be on the podcast. You're like, you're like, I don't think this is a good idea, but I want to be on the show, so I'm gonna make a sorcerer. And then like the group, we didn't finish the adventure, and then we like went to make plans to play it again, and we were all like, so do we want to play this again? And everyone was like, no.
It didn't even register. I just remember playing a little bit of something and then going into the first Pathfinder 2e society scenario and getting slapped to death by a bear, and was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Uh,
In
ah.
in fact, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I would bet that a lot of the dislike that Tui has from a lot of old timey 1E players comes from experience playing Doomsday Dawn. Not all of it,
Yeah,
but I think some of it.
and intro scenarios. And one day I will get the time and we'll try Pathfinder 2e again.
Nah, you're good. We'll go right to Starfinder Tui. All the bugs will be ironed out. You'll have a fresh cake. It's fine. You don't need to
Yeah,
touch Tui.
I mean I don't, but I am open to trying things again, especially given time, right? I mean,
That's
Starfinder Day
fair.
One is different than Starfinder now, right?
Ain't that the truth?
So
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of No Direction Beyond. If you like that, remember, come on and check us out over on no direction podcast.com. And I think we still have a Patreon. You can throw us some cash there if you want. That helps us keep our tech up and up to date, and make sure that we have things that we can send
like
people out.
server space and all sorts of
Yeah,
stuff like that.
that's the big one. Servers are expensive,
Yeah,
yo.
for
And I
the
think
whole website that we actually have.
yeah, and it only gets bigger. That our poor friends just keep writing blog articles and expanding the growth. It gets bigger
they,
exponentially.
they actually had a problem recently about it not keeping up for some reason. I forget exactly what it was. That's not my problem, not my part. But
Yeah,
I saw that
definitely.
chat and was like, I'm glad I don't have to wade into there.
Yeah, but so if you want to support us, those are some good ways to do it. And like I said, we're looking probably at the end of March for our next episode. I'm going to try to get some Paizo people either for March or April. If we don't have Paizo people for March, then we'll figure out something fun to do instead. Maybe we'll talk about our favorite builds. We've never done that, James. We've never talked about our favorite builds as like an episode.
Yeah, I mean, it could probably be part of an episode. We can workshop it.
Yeah. Or I can just give the whole topic to James and then just see what madness comes out of it. It might just be Helldivers, the Starfinder Adventure Path. Who knows?
I mean, maybe if my brain's still there. I mean, I'm just looking at the countdown timers now. I'm just wondering when I can jump in.
That's fair. So we're gonna go jump into literal hell, and until next time, go beyond with no direction.